Indiana lawmaker arrested for impersonating police to find coke, driving while intoxicated. The lawmaker, the local sheriff's nephew, threatened to have all of the officers' badges during his arrest. An Indiana state lawmaker is accused of impersonating a police officer to find cocaine, driving while intoxicated and resisting arrest, according to prosecutors. Rep. Dan Forrestal, a Democrat who was elected to the state house in 2012, approached a couple outside their Indianapolis home Saturday night and told them, "I'm a legit officer doing a drug bust, and today is the last day before the feds descend and start kicking in doors," court documents said. He then showed them a badge with a silver chain and asked them to tell him where the people selling drugs lived. Earlier in the evening, Forrestal, 36, had been at a bar telling customers he was a firefighter and asking them where he could buy party favors like cocaine, a bartender told investigators. According to an affidavit filed in Marion Superior Court on Wednesday, the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department received a call about Forrestal's behavior after 11 p.m., found him driving and pulled him over. Responding officers said they noticed Forrestal's breath smelled of alcohol, his eyes were red and glossy, and he was swaying. He wouldn't get out of his vehicle, and when two officers tried to remove him, he grasped the steering wheel, the affidavit said. When he was finally removed from the car and handcuffed, Forrestal told the officers he was going to sue them for violating his civil rights. He told them he was a lawmaker, a firefighter, and the sheriff's nephew, and stated that due to his position in public safety and as a state representative, he would have all of the officers' badges, the affidavit said. Forrestal is in fact the nephew of Marion County Sheriff Kerry J. Forrestal, a sheriff's office spokesperson confirmed to NBC News, and he serves as a private with the Indianapolis Fire Department. His grandfather was a member of the old Indianapolis City Council, and his great-grandmother was a township trustee, according to the Indy Star. The lawmaker refused to take a sobriety test after police pulled him over, and he insisted that an ambulance take him to a hospital because he had a small cut on his elbow from when the officers dragged him out of his car, prosecutors said. When Forrestal was in the hospital, police got a warrant to draw his blood, which he ripped out of an officer's hands when it was served to him. Deputies had to place him in restraints so that a nurse could draw his blood. Forrestal was booked Sunday in Marion County Jail, where he once served as a guard. He was released on a $150 bond and is due in court on August 27, jail records show. He was formally charged Wednesday with resisting law enforcement and operating a vehicle while intoxicated, both of which are misdemeanors. He was also charged with impersonating a public servant, which is a felony. Forrestal represents a large part of Indianapolis and serves in House Democratic leadership as assistant chair of the caucus. The spokesman for the Indiana House Democrats, John Shorg, had no comment on his arrest. A message to Forrestal's office was not returned, and his attorney, James Voiles, said he doesn't discuss his cases. A special prosecutor will handle Forrestal's case because he worked as a campaign volunteer for Marion County Prosecutor Terry Curry and has also made campaign contributions, Michael Leffler, a spokesman for the office, told NBC News.
Here we go. Indiana lawmaker, state lawmaker, arrested for impersonating the police. And this guy makes up law that we have to follow. And here's what he looks like with his mugshot. Witness react after Indiana lawmaker caught posing as a cop asking for cocaine. So this Indiana state lawmaker tried to show his badge, tell some people he was a cop, a legit officer doing a drug bust, and the people that he was talking to, he was telling them that today's the last day before the feds come and start kicking your doors in. And then he proceeded to say, where's the people that are selling the drugs? Now this guy was obviously intoxicated. Probably he had been to the bar, telling people at the bar he was a firefighter, and he was wanting to know where he could get some party favors like cocaine. But when he showed up at these other people's house, he pulled out his badge and his silver chain and asked them to tell him where the people selling drugs lived. But that's him. He was on a drunken cocaine binge that night, by the way it sounds to me. Now, the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department got their call about 11 p.m. They finally found him driving, pulled him over. The officers smelled his breath of alcohol, and his eyes were red and glossy, swaying around. He wouldn't get out of the vehicle. The officers tried to remove him, and he grabbed a hold of the steering wheel. They finally got him out of the car and got him handcuffed. And then he told the officers he was going to sue them for violating his civil rights. Now, this lawmaker also told him he was a lawmaker, a firefighter, and the sheriff's nephew, and stated that due to his position in public safety and as a state representative, he would have all the officers' badges. And it's true that he's the nephew of the Marion County Sheriff, Kerry J. Forstall. And they're saying that he serves as a private with the Indianapolis Fire Department. And his grandfather was a member of the old Indianapolis City Council. And his great-grandmother was a township trustee. So these people have been in power for a long time. I guess they think they can, well, I guess they can pretty much get away with anything. And of course, he refused to take the sobriety test, just like the officer in South Florida. She refused it, and they dropped the charges. So they'll probably do the same thing for this guy. And he insisted that the ambulance take him to the hospital because he had a small cut on his elbow when the officers dragged him out of his car. Then when he was in the hospital, the police got a warrant to draw blood, which he ripped out of the officer's hands when it was served. Deputies had to place him in restraints so the nurse could draw his blood. So I'm not sure about the forcing the blood thing because I don't think anyone was injured. That to me, so that's iffy there. But he was formally charged with resisting law enforcement, operating a vehicle while intoxicated, both of which are misdemeanors. He was also charged with impersonating a public servant, which is a felony. And they'll plea that bargain down for him. And he also represents a large part of the Indianapolis and serves in House Democratic leadership and assistant chair at the caucus. The spokesman for the Indiana House Representatives, of course, had no comment on the arrest. And a special prosecutor will be assigned to this case, I'm sure. But there he is, the lawmaker, the one that tells everybody else the laws that they have to go by. And here he is today, after he thought he could just not obey any of the laws that we have to go by.